This might be some of the most exciting stuff we're doing. Don't y'all think?
You're here.
Anybody here from out of state? Out of this state? Okay. Well, I'll be brief. I know you got a lot of people to listen to and talk to. But what I want to encourage everybody to do is be bold. This cyber area of life that is now descended upon us, every single thing we do is important. And for our people to prosper, we have to know where we're going and know what we're doing. We have to have a plan. In my administration, we use the 3 C's: communicate, collaborate, and cooperate with each other. We cannot operate inside. We can operate in silos, and it always leads to inefficiency or failure. But your experience and mine as well is when we talk to each other, when we see where we overlap, see where our missions combine and converge, that's where you really make progress. And we're doing that with all the state agencies, insisting on that sort of communication, and boy, does it pay off. And our state is growing. You are living in, I think, the finest place in the whole world, a clean, safe place to live, work, raise your family. We have people moving from all over the country that want to live here. We also have businesses all around the world that could invest hundreds of millions and billions of dollars anywhere in the world, and they're doing it in South Carolina. Why is that? Why would they come here? Well, there are a whole lot of reasons, but what it boils down to is there's some physical things and then some intangibles. The physical are the best technical college system in the world, and our technical colleges work with the 4-year colleges, work with the high schools, where people can move right straight on up as far as they want to go. One of the best things we did, turned out to be the most productive, is put a total of, I think it's $47 million in for what we call workforce scholarships. And that's for anybody that wants to go to technical college. And we got 16 of them. Y'all probably know, ours started out back in, I think, either the late 50s or early 60s. Senator Fritz Holling, who was the governor then, he asked a man named Stan Smith, who lived in Columbia, a businessman, to put together, they called it a trade school system then. Now it's called technical college. And over the years, we've stuck to that instead of trying to be junior colleges or liberal arts colleges. We've stuck to it, and that was the right course to take. In other states, they don't have as many as we did, and they started trying to fan out and be a little bit of everything to everybody, and as a result, some of them have lost their effectiveness, but not here. And our technical colleges here they are high tech. It is sophisticated. And it is an engine for building a dynamic workforce for the future. And those scholarships are for anybody. They're not means tested, because the idea is if you want to go to technical college, if you want to move up that ladder, if you had the money, you'd already be there. So these are for anybody who wants to go. How do we determine what a high demand job is? We get that from the businesses with communicating, collaborating, and cooperating. They tell us what they need, and those people who want to go to technical colleges to do those things get those scholarships. And I tell you, it works like a charm. And I hope that we can keep on doing that on into the future. But that's one reason people come here. I've talked to businesses who have said that availability of the technical college, we will even go to a foreign country and look at the operations of that plant and come back here and set up a curriculum at one of the technical colleges to train the kind of skills they need to work in that plant. And that company will then come here and hire South Carolinians to do the work. So that's something we're doing, ladies and gentlemen, they're not doing anywhere else. Some of them are trying, but they don't have the infrastructure of the technical college system. and they don't have the collaboration between all the schools to get it done. Something else that we just did with the only state in the country, I signed an agreement with the United States Army. It's called the PAYS program. I don't remember what that stands for. You know, these acronyms, y'all ever wonder what they stand for? You remember, everybody remembers SCE&G, that was South Carolina Electric and Gas, remember that? And then they changed it to SCANA, SCANA. Does anybody know what SCANA stands for? Nothing, it just sounded good. It does sound good. You know, like a lot of these pills you see on television, they just sound good. They just don't mean anything. Anyway, where was I? I have had them tell me that the availability of this training is what made the difference. And we signed an agreement with the Army out at Fort Jackson where any recruit coming into the Army, when they get out of the Army, they will be guaranteed interviews with at least 5 businesses in South Carolina. Now, why do we want to do that? The businesses are lining up, and in other states they will be starting. Some have seen this, and the Army is interested in doing it all across the country. But we know this, that these veterans, when they get out, they have learned how to show up on time, to be dressed right. They say, sir and ma'am, and they salute the flag. They're disciplined, and they have skills. They're stable. What better group should we have? Anyway, those are just some of the things that we're doing. We're really in just imagining things that we can do, and we're getting them done by listening to the people in the state who tell us what will work. It's common sense. That's why we didn't close down during the pandemic. Wasn't necessary. You notice about half the states did not shut down. We were one of those. The other half did. They didn't need to, but it's just common sense. You have the science and you have experience. You can't just rely on one or the other. You have to look at them together. Somebody said you have to temper science with experience. They said, here's an example. They said, science will tell you that tomato is a fruit, but experience will tell you you don't put tomatoes in a fruit salad. So we used a little bit of experience and common sense, and we succeeded. And we have a $2 billion surplus on about a $9 billion budget. I don't know of any other state that did as well. Anyway, so back to cyber. This is the future. And way back, I think it was in 2017, we started here. We had a conference with a group called Jack Voltaic. They are out of West Point. It's essentially a military operation. And they came to the university, and we began talking about cyber. And we put together a task force with the Department of Administration and SLED. We had a meeting just last week, a couple of weeks ago. We have let me find the man's name. He might be in here somewhere. Brian Shea, is he here? There he is. Y'all take a look, wave your hand, Brian. Brian knows all about cyber. And we have had a study done of which he did, of the assets that we have, the companies, the businesses that use cyber. Every time you go on the telephone, access your bank account, drive a car, if you get in a remote vehicle, a self-driving car, we better hope that the cyber system is working well, otherwise we're going to be sunk. So this is the environment, this is the new thing that I think is going to just change the world. So we want to be at the forefront of that because we want our people to be happy, be safe, and be prosperous. And one secret ingredient we have is our people. And our people are, according to these people around the world I speak to, I've always thought South Carolinians were great. There are a lot of great people in the country. But they tell me South Carolina is a handshake state. When the chairman of BMW said this, he said, when somebody in South Carolina gives their word and shakes your hand, he said, I'd rather have that than somebody's signature on 10 contracts. That's a good thing. Mark Clark was the general of World War II, later was the president of the Citadel. He said there's more patriotism per square inch in South Carolina than any place in the world. And that patriotism means loyalty, taking care of your neighbor, taking care of your family, and those kind of things. So we've got the people. What we need to do is to have the institutions and the systems to let them flourish. And that's where you sitting here today come right into it. And I'm telling you, we are way ahead of everybody. The Cyber Command is over in Georgia, as you know. The Department of Defense is putting billions of dollars into that. We've met with those people. We have the Dreamport at the USC Aiken and the National Guard are working with that Cyber Command. We've had conferences here in this state, and now we're having another one. And what we want to do, and what we learned from Brian Shea's study, is that South Carolina lacks a uniform strategy for developing the state's cyber ecosystem. Although South Carolina has cyber-related initiatives at the state level, some of which I mentioned, such as the Department of Administration's plan with SLED, which I mentioned, is called the Critical Infrastructure Cyber Security Program. These agencies and others within the state do not naturally work together. So that's what we have to do, is make that a natural, automatic thing to work together. This is a priority of my administration, and I'm sure your interest as well, to connect the efforts across these silos to make sure that we enhance our capabilities. And we're going to put together a group. We like to put together groups to figure out what to do. We put together a group called Accelerate SC to figure out how to respond to and deal with the pandemic. We had about 30 people. They had professors, teachers, farmers, law enforcement, doctors, lawyers, everything in between. And that's where we put together the plan, listen to everybody, use common sense, and that's how we excelled. We need to do that again. And we have the help with a man who's more familiar with this than most of us, leading the charge. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put, and you'll be a part of it, we're going to make a plan, and we're going to know where we're going, we're going to know what we're doing, because we have all the assets, we have all the contacts, we have all the people. We've already got a head start in this cyber security arena. And it can spell great safety. We can contribute to the national defense, but we can also contribute and support the aspirations of our people with prosperity, with jobs, with happiness, and everything in between. So this is real important. And I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to urge you to keep thinking about it. Let's have the ideas. Let's put our minds together and see that our place, that we belong to and belongs to us, South Carolina is right at the top, because that's where I believe we're going to be. And just to leave you with one cute story to remind you, it's important to know where you're going and what you're doing. And this is a story about a fellow who went out to one of these parties way out in the country in a little shack out there. They have some barbecue and probably had some alcoholic beverages. Anyway, had a lot way out there where it wouldn't make too much noise or it wouldn't be heard anyway. So they stayed up late and everybody hooting and hollering and drinking, imbibing in some of those alcoholic beverages. Well, he woke up in the morning, he was in the bushes, and it was late, and he couldn't find his car keys, but that was okay because he couldn't find his car either. So he thought, well, as he's stumbling around, said, well, I guess I better find my way back to town, but I don't know which road to take. It was dark when I got here. So he started stumbling down the little dirt road out in the country. And as he came to a little bridge going over a little river, little creek, he looked down there and there were a bunch of people standing around the river. And there was one fella out in the water, about thigh deep, had on a robe. He was standing out in the water. And they were talking, they were doing something he couldn't quite tell. They said, hey, brother, come on down. So he figured he would, so he stumbled all down, and before you knew it, he was out in the water, in the river, with this man with his robe on. And the man took him and dipped him down in the water, pulled him back up and said, "Son, have you found Jesus?" He said, "What? No." Dipped him down again, said, "Son, have you found Jesus?" He said, "No." Dipped him down there again and held him under for about 30 seconds. Pulled him back up, said, "Son, have you found Jesus now?" He says, "No." "Are you sure this is where he fell in?" That man did not know where he was going or what he was doing. But we do. We know exactly where we're going. We know what we need to do. Y'all will be right in the middle of it. And I look forward to working with you. And thank you for being at this conference.